Okay, Scott, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
All right, can everybody hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Well, you're the important one, so want to give it a couple minutes to let
Uh,
people roll in, or should I just start prepping it?
Um, Either way, this is gonna be. Are you gonna have the whole thing recorded, or are you gonna break it up and um, post it like in edited sections? Or
So I'll have the whole thing recorded for one, but I can break it up and slice it and drop little segments out that are super impactful.
okay, yeah. So yeah, let's since I just made the post, let's give it like 2 or 3 minutes before we get into anything too heavy.
Okay,
Uh,
sounds good.
I've
Well,
been
I'll go ahead.
working on marketing mostly and preparing to do a like test deployment kind of thing, like a full run of everything. We've been testing all of the contracts independently and um, integrated together, but in a couple of days we're going to do a full test run of the deployment and everything. So we're right on schedule. Things are really really good as far as like where we are right now.
That's awesome. Super excited. And, again, I appreciate you coming on the channel. It's good to have you on here.
Hey, I appreciate it. I was checking out your channel earlier. You get really great engagement, especially for the amount of subscribers you have. The
Yeah,
engagement is really good. So that tells me that the videos you're making are probably pretty quality.
yeah, I
And
appreciate that.
I'm really open to working with someone. So.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I only have just under 4,000 subscribers, but we get 3, 4, 500 likes a post or a video. So the drip community, man, it's strong.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. It's because it's been organic the whole time. So I have maybe 35,000 followers, I think, on the Drip Twitter account, and maybe like 17,000 on my personal account. And we make tweets that regularly get 500 likes, 300, 400 retweets, 1,000 likes. Some of them will break 1,000. Where I see people that have 250,000, 500 subscribers that don't get 10% of the engagement that we get.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I'm reading the chat right now. Everyone's saying that they can hear me pretty well, but they can't hear you. So if it, like volume wise, I don't know if you're able to turn your personal volume up.
I don't know. Uh, well, I think I can turn my volume. Did that do anything?
That's louder, yeah, for me anyway.
Okay, well, I can do that. I mean, and I can try to get closer.
There you go. I think that turned it up.
Like,
Volume, good to go. Yeah, I think everyone says it's good. I think that fixed it. Thank you.
cool. Yeah. All right. So if you want to get started.
Yeah, let's get rolling. As people are rolling in here, I'll just kind of set the stage for how I'd like the flow to go, and then we can just take it wherever we want. But again, crazy to have you on. It's like I started my drip journey like 9 months ago. A few people, my friends, were trying to get me into drip, and I'm like 1% per day. Like I'm not going to ROI for 100 days because I was over here doing all these cash grab, straight Ponzi scheme, DApps that were paying me 5, 10, 15% a day. So finally, drip price back then was like $7. So finally, they're like, look into it, like, check out some of these videos. So I looked into it. I'm like, oh, it works completely different than I thought it did. So got into drip, made my first video, and got like 18, 19,000 views, and then from then on, I was just fully into the ecosystem. But congratulations on drip hitting its 500th day today. So 500 days live, paying out 1%.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah. So when I developed Drip, me and my partner mainly, we were looking at all of these projects that were pretty popular in like my Discord channel and some of the Moonshot Hunters. I'm like an admin there. That's one of the groups that it was around a little bit before I joined, but really like I'm one of the founders of it and I'm an admin there. It's the most active crypto Telegram group on Telegram, and these platforms that were paying out 10% a day, 20% a day ROI. Even the ones that were paying a 1% a day ROI, they were very popular, but they were all lasting like less than a week, or some of them lasted maybe 2 weeks, and it was just a race basically. Who could get in on day one and then withdraw as much as they could before it got rugged, and it was a mix between just low integrity developers that would assign themselves a huge percentage of the tokens, or there would be backdoors in the contract, or I mean, there's a million and one ways that they were using those kinds of platforms to scam people. But I saw the demand there, and I saw that if it could be done right, and if we could balance it, and then create utility for it, this is something that has a strong market fit, and we could get a massive investor base. And then I spent, I don't know, maybe 8 months or something, really working on the game theory of it. Then I spent another few months actually building it out, and it's been extremely successful. We've outperformed all of the major altcoins. Our price itself has been on par with the majors, but when you factor in the yield that we pay out while maintaining this price that's on par with the majors, it's crazy. Like, when you factor in yield, we've done like 300x this year. So if you bought last year and staked it and have been a regular compounder, factoring in the yield that you made and the price, you've made something like 300x this year. At this point, where the price is right now, and no one can say that. Cake can't say that. B&B, no one can say that, and it's just a matter of the game theory, the referral structure, and this massive community that we've built up, and now the further integration of utility that's taken it from something that works very well and is very well balanced to actually having it be the foundation for something that's a lot larger, right? Something that actually provides a ton of value to DeFi as a whole, and that's really what we're working towards.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's been extremely successful. I mean, the longest running platform of its type, so it's been pretty impressive. I know we're all super stoked about it, but even more excited about the new stuff that's about to come out, because if you've got additional utility for Drip, and of course the full animal farm running, then the longevity of the platform is going to get big. So what I want to do is I want to try to run this AMA just a little bit different than some of your other ones. I know you're going to do probably a dozen AMAs over the next couple weeks, and so I don't want them to all sound exactly the same. I would say if my channel has a theme, it would be that I try to take complicated subjects and make them simple. So I just built out a real simple flow today to reflect that. What I figure is pretty soon you're gonna start up this marketing. It's gonna drive people to a landing page. They're gonna get some education there, and then a lot of those folks are gonna go look for education on YouTube. So they're gonna look at the recent AMAs and everything. And so I wanted to start the conversation out with a couple of the simpler concepts, and then just get more complicated as we go. Because I feel like if we start directly with dogs crediting, and a new person jumps on and they're like, okay, what's Drip and Animal Farm about? Give me the high level. They're going to be way too deep in the weeds. So if you're good with that, I'll start out simpler. We'll build from there. And then, if you're feeling the vibe or whatever, feel free to drop some alpha. I know the community would love that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I have something like an hour and a half, so we should just get right into it.
Perfect. I think we can get through it. So let's see here. So let me start off with the timeline. I think that's ideal. We won't spend too much time on this, but I just want to make sure that these dates are still valid. So September 15th, between now and September 15th, I should say, new Animal Farm landing page is going to drop. New Animal Farm UI. Dogs crediting is going to go live. That's going to be on the old site, theanimal.farm, and then your full-scale marketing campaign starts. Is that still all good?
Yeah, so I have basically an interview or an AMA, some sort of marketing event, every other day up until the 15th with Drip and Animal Farm related community members. So we have something like 150,000 users on our platforms combined. Probably more than that. That's the value that I've been saying for a couple months. And when I look at Radar, for example, we're outpacing everybody as far as new user growth. So I'm sure it's a lot higher than that now, but we have something like 150, 200,000 users that are in some level of activeness. You know, some of them they might have been in Animal Farm V1 and they're waiting to get credited. They may be in Drip. They may have been in Drip and are not active anymore. But either way, we have about an audience of 150, 200,000 that are directly connected to our community members in some way. And I want to spend the next week and a few days really targeting them and getting all of them on board. So everybody is on the same page about our roadmap moving forward. Everybody that needs to get credited, either dog or pigs, knows how they're doing it, how they can do it. So when we hit the 15th and the new site is up and the new landing page is up, I don't have to spend a ton of time speaking to existing community members. They'll be on board and they'll be helping to promote, and the vast majority of our promotion from that point up until launch is going to be directed towards outside of the community, doing a lot of articles, a lot of paid promotion, YouTube ads. I spent most of today recording audio for a YouTube ad, a lot of banner ads, all of that kind of thing. A competition that we're starting, which will be heavily targeted towards people outside of our community. So, so the 15th, that's when Dodge crediting starts. That's kind of when we wrap up the direct community marketing and go towards a lot of paid outward-facing marketing. We got over 50 million followers in combined Twitter influencers. So if you look at all the Twitter influencers we got on board that we're gonna have start doing their thing on the 15th, they have a combined 50 million followers, and they're all crypto related. So they're all crypto influencers that have a heavily focused follower base that are really into DeFi and really into crypto. And we took the time to filter them out and make sure they're legitimate, make sure they got engagement. We declined more than half of the people that we looked at for Twitter, for example, and YouTube. But out of those ones that we chose that have a combined 50 million, it's legit 50 million. So I don't know anybody that has that kind of impact on Twitter will have that kind of impact on Twitter. So I mean, that alone is more marketing and platforming than any crypto project ever had. And that's just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's pretty impressive. It's impressive that we've gotten this far with Drip with really no paid marketing, very little, maybe some, like you said, from the pre-sale cash. But since then, it's really been no marketing. So to get this far without it and knowing that you're going to dump, a good portion of funds into this marketing effort is pretty major. Let me just jump ahead real quick because I think our timeline's still on. So what I want to do real quick, like I said, a couple people are going to join that are coming from your ads, and they're going to want to have the picture painted for them. So I want to do a really quick Drip and Animal Farm overview, just a couple minutes on it. I want to talk a little bit about the user interfaces. I want to talk about your internal team, a little bit of reason for the delays on how the timing actually may be working out fairly well for us. Marketing, I want to spend some time on marketing, and then you taking over the world, etc. So we'll just we'll move right into it. So what I'd like, if that's all right. Obviously, we all know, hopefully if you're here, you know that Drip's the most successful, longest running daily ROI protocol on the planet. And also, congrats on Radar. You getting Radar to move us off the high risk list and back onto their homepage. I think that's definitely notable. But I think when people are going to see this marketing and even the people that I talk to now, they go from seeing a little bit about it, they watch a video on it, and they immediately say, this seems amazing, but it seems too good to be true. So, in your own words, it's better if you say it than me. In your own words, how is Drip Network sustainable, including the tax system and all that? If you could give us like a 2-minute how Drip Network works and how it's sustainable.
Yeah. So Drip Network is sustainable through several mechanisms. One is that the system is paying out the native asset itself. It's not paying out USD, for example. So that gives us some flexibility in supply to ensure that we can always meet the current demand for dividend payouts. That is not possible if we were guaranteeing USD rewards or guaranteeing, euro rewards. There's no flexibility there. Whereas in our model, we're paying on our native asset, so that gets us through times of corrections and through times of low demand, and it allows us to perform even better in times of high demand when we're removing even more tokens from circulation and locking even more up into the tax pool. Now, the ROI is coming from the taxes on transactions. So there's a 10% tax on all transactions except for buying, and there is a 5% tax on compounding. This goes towards a tax vault that is used to pay out dividends. So it's a self-sustaining model where the transactions go pay the large majority of the dividends. Now, there are also max payouts. And you said today that we hit the 500 day of drip. That's important because one of the major max payout mechanisms is the 365% max payout. And since it's a 1% daily ROI, this doesn't even come into play until at least a year after launch. Now, we got the vast majority of our users anywhere from 6 months on. So the vast majority of our users that are not doing positive actions in the system, continuing to deposit, continuing to compound, continuing to refer, they will be hitting their max payout anytime from now to, over the next year, continuing. The longer it goes, the more people are hitting the max payout. But there's a strong concentration of people hitting the max payout about a year and a half after launch, which we are, running up on relatively soon, in 100 days or 150 days, something like that. So this max payout ensures that people who are not continuing to deposit capital into the system compound in the system at a rate that is positive for the platform, or are not referring others, increasing their balance by earning referral commissions, eventually hit their max payout and are no longer able to withdraw dividends from the system. They're no longer able to generate dividends in the system. There's also, and this stops at 365, as I said. So the max that you can ever earn on a deposit balance is 365%. So that alone puts a cap on people being able to infinitely create exponential growth and compound interest in the system. Then there's something called a whale tax. And the whale tax comes into play when someone earns more than 100,000 drip in the system. So when effectively, so the whale cap maxes out at 10%. So for every 1% of the total supply that is earned by one user, an additional tax is placed on their dividends, and it caps out at 10% of the supply. So 100,000 drip, or 10% of the starting supply, I should say. And this ensures that no one can withdraw and sell more than 3% of the supply at one time from the system. So from one account in drip, no one can ever earn more than 3% of the supply. So these mechanisms prevent any one person from running away with the system. And this is different from any other daily ROI platform. Drip innovated all of these mechanics. Now, there is also a referral structure which is only paying out with positive actions in the system, and it's paying out. Oh, sorry, I'm just reading a text someone celebrating that radar. It's only paying out one person per positive action. So the reason why DAP Radar initially put us on high risk, it was due to a misunderstanding of the referral structure. They saw team referrals and they immediately associated us with a type of system such as, Tron Chain that came up before us, or there's a lot of them, and they're even in traditional markets. You would think of them as a pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing. And these systems pay out a varied commission based on how early you get into the platform, or how early you sell the product, if it's a traditional market. And it concentrates capital upstream, and the system inevitably becomes top-heavy and unsustainable. Now, most traditional referral structures only pay out one commission or one referral bonus per positive action. And that's what Drip does. And it's proven for, hundreds of years to be a model that works very well and is extremely sustainable. The difference between what we do and what, say, Amazon does is that we allow the user who's earning the commission to share the commission bonuses with their team. So it's still one deposit, one commission. So it still has all the sustainability of a traditional referral structure like Amazon. But the difference is, when you make a referral, you earn a commission. Now, when the person that you refer does a deposit, you earn the commission. And now if they do another deposit, right, another positive action, another compound, then it goes up to the person who referred you, and it rewards them. So it's still only one payout per positive action, which is a proven sustainable mechanism, but it further decentralizes these commission payouts. And in fact, if you have 5 or more direct referrals, 25% of your commission goes downstream. It goes to the people you refer. So it's the exact opposite of a type of pyramid structure, because capital is prevented from flowing upstream and concentrated at the top, because the largest your downline, your team can be, is 15. And it pays out one commission per positive action. Everybody gets the same commission size. It's not a system where the earlier you get in, the larger your commission is, or the more people you referred, the larger your commission is, like a pyramid scheme or multi-level marketing scheme would be. And in fact, it's the opposite of that, because the more referrals you have, actually, the smaller the commission you get, and the capital flows downstream. So it takes the sustainability and the viralness of a traditional referral structure and makes it even more fair and even more sustainable. And the beauty of it is that the referral structure, the team referral structure, has this viral exponential growth mechanism where you refer somebody, maybe they only refer somebody, but then that person refers 2 people. That person refers, maybe 2 people, but one of them is a YouTuber. They refer 20 people. And then, maybe 5 out of those 20 people refer 2 people, and has this massive compounding exponential growth mechanic, which allows us to onboard users at a crazy rate. But the commission structure is even more sustainable than even like an Amazon traditional referral structure, because it's still only one payout per positive action. And in fact, capital flows downstream if someone has 5 or more direct referrals. And this exponential growth through the referral structure is juxtaposed to the dividend payout from the faucet, which is limited, which does have max payouts. So when you have a system that allows you to exponentially onboard users, but limitations to their ability to earn compound interest, you have a system that can onboard and bring in capital faster than it pays out dividends. And that's how we've had an extremely sustainable model. And then, of course, the liquidity pool is fully decentralized. The vast majority of capital, something like 80-something%, is locked. The wallet, the developer wallet, which kicked off the referral structure, 100% of the drip that's gone to it has been withdrawn from that stake and sent to the tax vault to pay out dividends to the community. And now that wallet has maxed out, so it means it can no longer even withdraw drip if it wanted to. So drip is the only platform of its type with no dev fee, no taxes that go to founders, nothing like that. It's a 100% community project, and it's designed to be the highest performing daily ROI platform out there for all of the reasons I just described. And there's a lot more, but if you have further questions about it, I'll answer it. But this is how we maintain sustainability, and this is how we've performed at such a rate. And this is, you asked, how is that sustainable? It seems too good to be true. And the reality is that if you go to really spend time to understand the details, it becomes very clear how it's possible. And this is why, a DAP radar, for example, sees team referrals, instantly has that, knee-jerk reaction and says, oh, this seems like, team referrals. Is it multi-level marketing? Is it, what's going on here? Is it like Tron Chain or these other projects that were not sustainable? And they immediately have that knee-jerk reaction to the market as high risk. But then when I actually sit down with them, we go over the contracts and they understand the system, they have that epiphany that everybody has, and immediately removes us from high risk, because they realize we are lower risk than any of the projects that they have in their top 10. Or really, I don't know of a lower risk project in DeFi, because our project is running with 100% uptime for 500 days now. It's the most decentralized project in all of DeFi, the strongest community in all of DeFi, the fastest growth in all of DeFi, 80-something% locked liquidity, 100% decentralized liquidity. We have all of these new utilities that are coming up all the time, multiple front ends from multiple dev teams, multiple ways to interact with the contracts. That makes us extremely hard and extremely decentralized. You don't get lower risk in DeFi than drip. So, and you don't get more sustainable either. So, that's how you do it. There's a lot more to it, but
I think you hit every bullet point someone would need to hear. I think that's just the issue. It's hard sometimes. As YouTubers, we're taking your information secondhand and we're pouring it out there and trying to make people understand it. But it's always good to get it directly from the horse's mouth. So I think you hit every bullet point that someone would need to feel more confident about drip, get their confidence up, start to get into this ecosystem. So let's jump straight.
Let me just say that our contracts are all open source. They're immutable and they're audited. And we even did an audit that's fully open source, which means that you don't have to rely on me. You don't really have to rely on my secondhand information or secondhand information that you're getting from somebody else. You don't even have to rely on a centralized auditing firm that maybe could be paid off or something like that. You can download the Slither auditing software from their GitHub, run their auditing software on our contracts the same day we did, and match up our auditing report to what you get and see that what you see is what you get there. You don't have to rely on any of us for any kind of trust-based system.
As I think time goes on, people are going to realize that DeFi is going to start to get a little more mainstream, if you will. It'll still be a tiny fraction of the crypto community, but it'll get a little more mainstream, and people will look at the godfathers of DeFi, and they're going to see drip and the animal farm there. So I think you crushed that answer for me. I think that's everything someone new would need to hear. Give me a couple minutes on what, in a nutshell, from a holistic view, Animal Farm is, and what's the master strategy. I mean, for me, I listen to all the breadcrumbs, or, all the words that you're saying that leads the breadcrumbs to figure out what the best play is, and the best play is obviously long-term ownership. So can you give us just, I think people understand drip fairly well when they get in, the 1% makes sense, and then they start to jump over the Animal Farm and things get a little confusing for them. Can you give me just a couple quick minutes on the holistic Animal Farm in a nutshell?
Yeah, so one thing that we realized through the development of drip over the past couple of years, that there's a severe lack in the market for fully decentralized and trustless yield aggregating and lending protocols that are quality. And really, they're non-existent. They're either really just low quality, and most of them don't last a couple days, or they're fully centralized. And the centralized ones are, you look at Centric and these ones, they're also low quality. They just happen to be centralized. So we recognize that there's a huge demand, right? In any market, liquidity is extremely important, but there's an exceptional demand right now for liquidity providers in DeFi. And Drip is our way that we allow our user base to take advantage of this demand by utilizing our trustless contracts to both add capital to liquidity pools and lend capital to decentralized exchanges in order to aggregate yield and earn passive cash flow, essentially. We have a ton of mechanics that separate us from the competition in the space. I think our main feature, which separates us from the competition or potential competition, is our decentralized ownership governance model. And in all of the other yield aggregating or lending protocols, the fees and taxes associated with either the products on the page or the native assets go to paying the founders and developing team. This is generating billions of dollars for the founders of these platforms. And what Animal Farm does is take this capital that would otherwise be going to the founders, myself and my development team, and instead utilize it to pay out the users of the platform as they generate yield through our products by paying them a governance token over time through the use of our products, which can be staked and give you a share ownership of the platform as a whole. So when you stake non-native tokens and non-native liquidity pairs, you earn our farm reward token. And this acts as a liquidity vehicle, which is rewarding you yield for providing liquidity to these various liquidity pools. And this reward token, which is called dogs, can be used to farm the governance token, which, as it's being farmed, is allowing you to accumulate a share ownership of the platform. So we have two major assets on the platform. We have the dog token and we have the pig token. And we chose those names because we're going with the theme of Animal Farm and extreme ownership. So the book Animal Farm by George Orwell, it's a book about how an abusive farmer essentially was exploiting the animals on the farm, the workers, his animals on the farm, and because they were being exploited and taken advantage of. Their workflow was low, everything was down, they hated it, etc. Like, as you can imagine. So the animals decided to essentially revolt, have a revolution, take ownership of the farm for themselves. And once they had that self-ownership, and pride in the products that they own, production picked up, and really the incentive structure aligned. So we took that theming, the revolutionary ownership, and we put it into play in Animal Farm. So Animal Farm is the first farm where the users of the farm themselves benefit as the owners of the farm. So not only do they get their share of all the deposit fees and withdrawal fees on the products on the farm, they also get a share of all the taxes whenever the dog token is transacted, and they get pig tokens that are generated from the piggy bank contract, which is a variable time locking contract, and they also get a portion of all the yield that's generated from back-end staking. So that's another major mechanic that we do that's different from any other platform in the space. All of the collateral on the farm, which is hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, we use a trustless intermediary contract which takes that collateral, accounts for your stake on the animal farm, and then deposits that capital on PancakeSwap in their lending pools on your behalf, turn an additional 30 to 40% APY. And this additional APY that's generated is what pays for marketing. It's what subsidizes some of the gas costs on the platform, because so many various transactions are going on to ensure that it's not too gas intensive. We subsidize it with some of the capital that's earned on the back end, and also to inject a larger dividend into the pig pen, which is the governance pool. So our version 1 of Animal Farm had over $700 million worth of TVL in the first week, and that was with almost no paid marketing. That was with a fraction of the mechanics that we have in V2. And from $700 million, you're able to generate $25-30 million a year in additional capital that can go to both paying for marketing and can go to paying an increased reward dividend to the governance stakers, and can make the gas price down to almost nothing. The gas price is already low, but we're able to reduce it significantly more by subsidizing it. So it gives us a massive marketing budget, which is extremely important. People may or may not realize, but I think that producing the products and producing real utility is what makes people stay in your system, but marketing is what brings the people. And we've done a great job through community marketing, and we've done a great job setting up unique and very efficient referral structures. But one thing we haven't done a lot of is just outright paid marketing. And because we had a version 1 with Animal Farm, and we're able to raise millions of dollars that we can now utilize in V2 in both marketing and pig pen injections, we have a massive budget to start out with. So we're going to be dropping hundreds of thousands of dollars in this month run up to launch alone. And we're able to maintain that budget, really for the life of the platform, because we're generating this yield on the back end. So traditionally, these fees and these taxes that are associated with deposits or withdrawals of products or transactions of the native assets, traditionally, it goes to the developers or the founders, and then they spend some percentage of it on marketing. So that's capital, and that's profit that would otherwise be going to the investor that is now going to the founder and paying for marketing. Where in our case, all of the capital that we're using for the dev fee, all of the capital that we're using for marketing, and an additional, $15-20 million a year that we're getting for pig pen injections is coming from capital that we otherwise would not be accessing if it wasn't for this back-end pancake swap staking. And that's something that's uniquely, completely unique to Animal Farm. So this is a major innovation that gives us a major advantage over anybody else in the space. And
so go ahead.
Yeah, and this collateral rehypothecation that's being done, staking on PancakeSwap, gives the users of our platform a major advantage because the main farm that people are using today is PancakeSwap. So if you can stake an Animal Farm, get all of the benefits of Animal Farm, plus getting all the benefits of PancakeSwap at the same time, it's a no-brainer. Every single person that has their capital in PancakeSwap, there's no reason why they shouldn't migrate it over to Animal Farm, because you're going to get all of the benefits of being a PancakeSwap, plus all of the major innovations in Animal Farm. Just to speak on one last thing that we do different. I could keep going, but I know you want to move it on with the questions. But
for sure.
We also do something called a decentralized dynamic supply control algorithm. So that's something that we designed, which looks at the demand for our underlying asset and sets the emission rate for both our governance and reward token based on this demand. All the other farms in the space, including PancakeSwap, have a set mint rate, and it just blindly mints those tokens at that rate for the life of the project, whether those tokens are in high demand, whether we're in a correction. And this is why you see a steady bleed of those tokens. Whereas with Animal Farm, we look at several different values and derive a demand value, which is used to determine the emission rate. So when the demand is high and the price is pumping and everybody's excited, the emission rate is at 100%, which means it's producing the highest emission rate it can within a range. We chose a range that the high end is extremely attractive but sustainable, and the low end is also attractive, but due to the tax mechanism and burn mechanism on tokens, it becomes a deflationary asset. And that allows, when the demand is lower, for the supply to shrink. And of course, there's two main pressures on price, and that's supply and demand. So when you have a waned supply, the way to address that to see price performance is by restricting supply. And when you have a boom in demand, you can increase emission rates within a range to make the rewards more attractive while still seeing price performance. And that boom of people buying now have even more incentive to take those tokens they just bought and put them in our products and lock them up because the rewards are higher. So there's so many different aspects of our platform that we're doing that no one is even touching on, that no one's even close to touching on, and we have them bundled in the most perfect game theory that you can really build on a decentralized network. That's V1. That's a lot of the things V1. We have a bunch of new stuff coming with V2 that we can get into.
And I hope that people who are listening understand how impactful that is. And if they don't, let me just boil it down. If you had a big platform, say PancakeSwap, the number one on BSC right now, if you were an owner of that, you'd get paid out really well. Animal Farm is allowing you to first have another use case for drip, which is bullish because that pads that other investment that you have, but then also allows you to have an ownership in a massive platform like this. Long term, it puts the control and the financial favorability back in the hands of the investors, which is the whole game theory behind the Animal Farm. So I think it's incredible, and I know everyone's excited about it. I know you probably don't want to talk about old stuff anymore. Let's move right into the next piece. So what I want to talk about next, if you're good with it, is let's talk about the new UI for the Animal Farm. So first off, it's incredibly clean, looks really good. Are
Yeah.
we going to get an opportunity to see the new landing page that's going to go along with it prior to the 15th?
Yeah, I think the new landing page should be done in 2 days. So we we gave the go ahead on the design, and it should be ready to go in the next 2 days. So right now we're doing essentially test runs on the deploy and test runs on the launch. So we like to do basically a dry run of everything before we make anything public. And right now we're doing a lot of tests on individual contracts. We're doing tests of the whole ecosystem combined with all of the contracts integrated on a sidechain. And we're doing them on the UI as well. So full integration on the UI. We're doing this separately and all together. And in the next 2 days, our plan is to do a full dry run on the UI, and then when we finish that, make it public. So the new UI, including the landing page, will be up by the 15th, but likely it will all be up before then, but definitely before the 15th.
Okay.
And the main update with V2, we made a lot of improvements, but the main update from V2 is the loyalty system with Animal Farm. That is going to take Animal Farm to levels that I couldn't even imagine it reaching with the previous model, because it really solves the issue of people farming for short-term return with no interest in ownership of the platform, or no interest in accumulating a real share and earning from the dividend model. It takes, I think we have, I don't know off the top of my head, but something like somewhere between $15 and $30 million worth of liquidity associated with the dog token. I would have to check. I don't know off the top of my head. It's all people can go on Dex Tools and just look, and you see it's still all in the liquidity pool, and it takes that capital, and it now makes it a reward pool for those who are doing positive actions in the system and are utilizing their dogs to accumulate ownership of the platform instead of accumulating dogs to dump them on the market. So it's a brand new form of vesting model. It's a vesting model that doesn't just lock up tokens, because if all you're doing is locking up tokens, then you're just you're just postponing the dump. And as soon as those tokens become unlocked, you're going to have people that are selling at the unlock rate, or even worse, if you have a mass unlock event, like say, some people's tokens unlock in a month, and a month later another group, then you just have these front-running panic events where people are selling before they become unlocked because they know there's going to be a price correction there that they can buy and get back in. All of that is cut out with our new vesting model, because instead of locking the tokens, we have a variable tax placed on the tokens. This variable tax is swapped, so when people transact the dog token, it's swapped for both BNB and BUSD, 1/3 to BUSD and 2/3 to BNB. And this BNB is paid out to those who are staking their dogs, both to reduce the tax and earn a BNB dividend. And if they're in the auto compound pool, they're reducing their tax while they earn BNB, and while they compound into the dog's master chef to get a greater share ownership of the platform itself by earning pigs. So it's a system where every individual needs to determine when it makes sense for them to transact dogs. And there's no one point where a percentage of the dogs become available with no tax. It's always some variable that's independent to each individual, so there's no mass unlocking periods, and it sets the incentive structure so the people who are weak-handed and are, interested in short-term gains are going to pay a massive tax, and then those who are interested in the longer-term play are the ones that earn from those people that are thinking short-term. But that's not to say there's no short-term play, because of course, if you get into the dog pound, which is the contract where you're reducing your tax and earning B&B, that B&B that you're earning is immediately available. So there's still that road to short-term profit. It's just you're earning short-term profit in a non-native token. You're earning short-term profit in either B&B or BUSD, which allows you to take profit in a way that doesn't hurt either the governing token.
Yeah.
So it's the only platform where you can earn a steady cash flow of dividends, both in stable coins and B&B, without ever needing to sell the native asset. So just from the rehypothecation alone, there's going to be $20-30 million worth of BUSD paid out to governance stakers, and that $20-30 million worth of realized profit that people are going to make, or are projected to make in the first year from being a governance staker, is not reliant on a single pig or dog token being sold. So, I mean, that tells you the potential of this platform, where the incentive is essentially the opposite of any other yield farm or lending protocol in the space.
It's also very interesting because the angle you take at everything, you're in a way guiding people to think like rich people think, not sell the native assets, utilize it to, get capital out via dividends. It's a whole mindset. It's like if you're into any type of gamification, like in the DeFi space, this will allow you to scratch that itch, but also think like an intelligent investor, like the rich people think, not sell the native assets, and utilize the game theory to your advantage and get paid out in BUSD or BNB, where you never have to sell the original assets. And then if you ever get to the point where we get to that point where lending is real for the drip model, there will be no reason ever to sell Animal Farm or drip assets, which is pretty incredible.
That was the whole thought process behind Animal Farm. How can we set up a protocol where people can earn through accumulating their assets and then leveraging their assets for low-risk yield aggregation, either through lending or liquidity providing? And this is how all of the super wealthy make their funds, right? They never sell their assets, or they very rarely sell their assets, and they just instead use those assets to accumulate yield. And if you only spend the yield, if you only spend the dividends, and you continue to accumulate your assets, that is how you become wealthy. I have to be very careful about what I say, because I can't I can't make
throw out specific price predictions and tell people where they're going to be. But I think the important thing is that you've laid out a really well orchestrated roadmap for people to follow. So whether they do it in your protocol and that's how they make money, grow wealth, or they do it somewhere else in real life in, let's say, the real estate game, the concepts are the same, and you in a way are being the educator here, which is teaching people to do things in the right way. So, I think that's the nature of why drip and animal farm is so powerful, and I think it takes people a little bit to get it till it clicks. The strategies there, a lot of people are thinking quick cash, but once you start realizing, let's stake the dogs and earn BNB. Let's stake the pigs, earn BUSD. Can I take my drip that I'm earning and pair it and utilize the garden so I can grow my other assets? I think once you start to realize how the ecosystem works together, you start thinking like a rich person, and then you can invest in that manner. So yeah, I know you can't throw out any specific price predictions, but I think overall this is a learning experience, especially for new investors and new people that are new to the DeFi space, and it's going to help them with that investor mindset. On this new UI, can you tell me anything about what we'll expect to see as far as like other metrics? For instance, one issue that I have with the old UI is the max payout is listed in, I believe, truffles, and so my max payout is 74 trillion truffles or something. That number is just, it's hard to tell what that would equate to. Will we see what, say in like Piggy Bank and some of these other ones, will we see like how many LPs the max payout is, and will we have some different metrics there on the new UI that are more, I guess, financially geared?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of new dashboards on the UI. So when we're looking at, for example, the Pigpen, on the Pigpen page, it doesn't just have, for example, the BNB that you've earned, your stake. It has a bunch of global information, like the current market cap of pigs, the current circulating supply of pigs, the amount of pigs that have been burned since launch, the max supply, the your total balance, the total balance in the contract, your percentage of the holdings, of the overall holdings, the dollar value of the vault balance, the dollar value of your pending earnings. So we have a bunch of metrics that we're providing for the new dashboards to really give the investor a much more informed idea of what they actually are holding and their potential earnings in the system. So that's the case with both the new Animal Farm UI and the new Drip UI that we're working on that will be released shortly after Animal Farm goes live. There's a lot of reasons why I wanted to change the UI. One of them is because we have put so much work into Animal Farm, and the mechanics of Animal Farm are levels above anything that's available in the space. But our old UI was basically just utilizing PancakeSwap's UI template and all of their dashboards. And PancakeSwap made it very easy to use their UI and use their dashboard. So that's what everybody used. But I didn't want people to hit the site and think, okay, this is another PancakeSwap fork, or this is another PancakeSwap clone. So changing the whole look and feel of the site was extremely important to me. So we spent a lot of time on design, and our new design looks a lot more like what you would see from an investment bank than what you would see from a DeFi platform. It looks nothing like what you would see from a PancakeSwap type farmer pool. The landing page is, I believe, levels above any other DeFi landing page. So we're using some tools that I haven't seen anybody else use before in the space. There's some traditional, centralized companies that are using these tools, but I believe we're the first to use it in DeFi. And when you hit the landing page, you're first hit with, so as soon as you come on the landing page, there's a video at the top, which is basically a pitch. So it's like a 30-second pitch about Animal Farm and our vision, followed by an interview with me. And that's what I've been spending all day doing, is recording audio for this interview. Basically, we hired a professional interviewer, a very beautiful woman, because that always helps, and she's asking questions I'm doing like pre-recorded audio so we can make this video. And this video will be used for YouTube ads, but it will also be put on the front page of the site. So that's you're immediately hit with that. And then below that, it's our vision typed out in about a paragraph and a half. Below that is a video about how to actually get onboarded into BNB. So how to use a fiat on-ramp, how to set up MetaMask, how to import tokens to your wallet, all the basic information that someone that sees a YouTube ad and clicks over from that YouTube ad and hits the page and knows nothing about crypto needs to know to get into our platform, to start using our products.
Yeah, I think that's super important. That onboarding process is one of the toughest things. And even though you're taking all of us our jobs away as YouTubers, because that's what we do, tutorials on this stuff, I think it's important because if you're running marketing, people need to see an ad and then be able to take action. So if they have to go to YouTube and watch 2 hours of videos to figure out how the process goes, it's just not going to happen. So I think it's super important. And I think that, right, you mentioned this a bunch of times, but investment banks, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on research to try to figure out, once people lands on your site, what's going to make them want to fork over money and put it in an investment. So you tailoring the aesthetics that direction, I think is going to be major. I think the old UI stuff is cool because it's nostalgic for us who have been in the game for a little while. But I think the new stuff is really going to set us apart. And I personally, and I know a lot of folks in the YouTube community, they're the same. We've got some high net worth individuals, but they need to be able to look at like what they're familiar with, an investment bank like website, and then they'd be willing to put in 100,000, 200,000. It'll be too hard to get them over the barrier of what a smaller, a beginning, a pancake swap clone DeFi site looks like. It's too much for them. But if you can show them something like you've created here, it's next level, and I think it'll do a lot more than a normal website refresh or something like that would do in the standard investment world.
Yeah, well, we've been really doing the vast majority of our marketing to people that are already familiar with DeFi and are already crypto holders. So these people, they have a better understanding of what's going on the back end and what separates us from these other projects. But our landing page is going to be targeted to people that are, on YouTube, watching YouTube videos, or on Twitter. Maybe they just are very new to crypto. They follow some major Twitter influencer, someone that's just hoovering up followers like crazy, and then they get exposure. And when they hit our site, they need to see something that looks professional and looks like something that they would be willing to put their credit card information into, or they would be willing to give their personal details to. Even though they don't have to do that, it needs to meet that standard. So there's that video, and once you scroll down a little bit on the site, that's when our contest pop-up comes up. So we don't want to hit them with a pop-up as soon as they get on the site, because that's kind of unattractive. But once they do a scroll down a bit, that's when a pop-up comes up. And this pop-up is effectively a contest that allows them to do certain tasks to get points. And on the day of launch, we'll be having a payout of $5,000 to one person. We may have a variety of prizes, but I know we're going to at least have one payout for $5,000 to a random user. And these contest tasks are, for example, join the Telegram group, follow us on Twitter, invite somebody to the page, and they would do that through retweeting a Twitter post. Give a referral code associated with the ad that took you to the site. So now we can do analytics on who's hitting our site, how many of them have BSC wallets, because another task that they need to do, so each task they do gives them points, and each point acts as a ticket for the raffle. So if you do 20 tasks, then you'll have 20, your chances will be 20 times greater than someone that only did one task to win the raffle. So this is going to bring in a lot of, normies, a lot of people that don't know much about crypto, but, if they get a chance at winning $5,000, they'll do it. And that gets them to join our groups, join our social media, and now they get exposure to the actual details of the platform, and it hooks them, it gets them onboarded. And I think more important than anything, it gives us really strong analytics about what ads are working, what ads that are being clicked on are being done by people that have BSC wallets, where we need to be putting our resources. So it's a strong analytic tool, and that is something that we're using for the first time, and I think it's going to be huge. Then below that is articles, so a bunch of out-facing articles about our platform, BSC News, Cointelegraph. Right now we're talking to Yahoo Finance, some really big platforms, really big news platforms. We're working with them right now so we can get some really nice looking out-facing articles. Below that's testimonials, and then below that is a bunch of branding. So links to our audits, have the auditing firm branding, all the platforms that we bought banner ads, so like BSC Scan and Dex Tools and DAPRater have all their branding below there under our partners list, and really just give a professional vibe and allow people that are basically new to see, okay, they're associated with all these major platforms, and it just gives an extra boost of confidence, as far as legitimacy when they see that. And then of course there's a little thing in the top right that says go to DAP. They click go to DAP, and that's when they hit the homepage, and that's where people have seen pictures of the homepage, where it gives actual info about all of our products, a bunch of analytics about our products, and an easy way to navigate them. You drop off?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry. I think that's super important because I think it's going to give us some data and analytics that we've never seen before, having never done paid marketing. And part of that is once you show people an ad, if you have a high click-through rate and they get to the next stage and they don't go any further, then that stage needs to be fixed, and the following stage and the following stage. So I think over the first couple weeks of marketing, the team is going to learn a ton about what works, what doesn't, and what to go after as far as like dialing in your demographic and everything. So I think it's going to be big. Yeah. And what would you say? We can move on right after this, but what would you say the marketing budget's going to be for the first 30 days?
We're looking at $150,000 to $200,000 for the first 30 days, and that's going to really allow us to have a good run of the YouTube ads, see what works, what isn't working. It's going to get us, 50 million plus Twitter followers worth of influencers directly focused on crypto. It's going to get us banner ads on all the major sites. It's getting us articles for a bunch of major platforms. We have some really big YouTubers lined up. I just hooked up with a firm today that that is likely going to be able to get us on, Crypto Lark, Coin Insider, really big YouTubers. So
that's huge.
Really,
I work
really all aspects.
Part of my background is in marketing, and we spent one of the companies I do some of the marketing for. We spend around $150,000 a month, and we get tens of millions in front of tens of millions of people. So I mean, major marketing push for that type of capital. You're going to be able to get in front of a lot of people. I would have a very hard time with the new UI and the new the new UI, the new landing page, the new marketing. And everything about to come out, the new roadmap. I would have a hard time believing that if you're running paid marketing like this, that we don't see a massive influx of users into the drip and animal farm system.
The beauty is that we can maintain that budget. So that's the budget we're going to run in the first month, and that's going to give us a very good feel of what's working, what doesn't working, and we're going to be able to really dial it in and hyper focus it and maintain that budget. And that's the beauty about doing the rehypothecation. That's capital that is not coming out of investor pocket or users' pockets. That's specifically designed to pay for marketing and really just give us a marketing campaign or a marketing budget above any other platform. Because you look at PancakeSwap, you look at any of these other platforms, and they're collecting fees and they're collecting taxes or whatever that goes to the developers, and then it's the developers that decide how much they want to spend on marketing. Where with Animal Farm, 30% of all the capital that we generate from rehypothecation is allocated towards marketing, and we're going to use it towards marketing. And for example, with V1, when we didn't have a CMO on board to really help us with the outreach and marketing and scheduling and all of that, we still use some of it, but the vast majority of it just kind of sat there, because if I'm not using it for marketing, then it's just going to sit there until it is used for marketing. Now we have a marketing team, a strong marketing team. I have a project manager to help us keep communication between the team fluid. I have a CMO who's very, very good. He's been doing amazing work. We have 3 marketing firms that we're working with, specifically crypto-related marketing firms. And I already have connections to all of the major platforms anyways. It's just I needed someone to, it's more than a full-time job to be reaching out to them and doing all the scheduling and then analyzing the engagement that we're getting from them, determining where we need to be putting our budget, where we need to be focusing it. And now we have a full team. So we have a CMO. He has people that work for him. Several people that are working for him, and then we contracted out a bunch of people as well. And then we have 3 marketing firms working for us. So it's I don't think there's anybody that's doing marketing in crypto like we're about to do for Animal Farm.
Yeah, I think it's going to be game changing. I don't want to spend too much time on this next one on Drip because I know it's a little bit farther down. But just a couple quick questions on the new Drip UI. One, I believe you said on the last AMA that you were going to have a possible meeting in regard to the Drip UI and maybe putting a bow on it today. So I'd like to ask you if that meeting went down, and then get a little alpha on what's going on with the new Drip UI.
Yeah, so I did have that meeting today. I spoke to someone that I've known for a little while about about whether he would come on board and do it or not, or so we have the design, we have all of that completed. It's just a matter of actually building it out, which would it take that long? It'd take maybe a week or so, because we already have everything built. It's just a matter of design. So
Will we see a landing page for Drip as well come out in the marketing in the next few weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the landing page for Drip is going to come when the new UI for Drip comes. Yeah, but there will absolutely be a landing page with the new UI. But so the conversation that I had today, not to get into too much of like the details, but we spoke about what exactly we needed done. It's something that he absolutely can do. And what I'm waiting for is the landing page for Animal Farm to come back with the guys that I worked with that. And assuming that they deliver how I believe they're going to deliver, and from what I've already seen, I may choose to go with them for the Drip UI. And that's just that's what we had a conversation about. So basically, in the next 2 days, I'll know whether we go with the guy that I interviewed today, who's a very good dev. I've known him for a couple of years, or we go with the guys that we just brought on to do the landing page, because they're also a very skilled React front end team, and they work very fast, and they are also it's a good budget as well. So really, it's about deciding who we want to go with. So with the new Drip UI, the way well, the new Drip UI is kind of it's going to come in combination with a few other products. And one of them is a new contract to make airdropping easy, and then there's 2 to support the faucet and the reservoir, and we can do the faucet and the reservoir contract and launch that after Scratchy or after the Pigpen game. But I want to get the UI up ASAP, and I want the airdropping functionality to be there when we do the new UI. That's a definite. So I'll know in the next 2 days what exactly we're gonna do. I'll know what dev team we decide to go with, and I'll know the extent of what we're gonna do as far as integrating the new contracts. But it's for sure the new UI is gonna come before Scratchy, and also we're gonna have a UI for the Reap DAO as well, because we need to do the NFT sales, and we need to have a way for people to stake those NFTs to lock in their position in the DAO. So there's a lot coming. We basically have something to deliver: a new product, a new UI, some major supporting mechanism every month for the next 8 to 12 months. Every single month we can launch something that's either already been developed or is 90% developed. The Dogs Roulette game, the Hacker Simulation game, the Faucet contract, the Reservoir contract, the new UI, Scratchy, partnership vaults, Scratchy partnerships. There's, the Dogs Roulette. We have so much that's already built, and it's just a matter of executing it now. Really, it's been the past 6 months. I've been working with 3 different development teams, just building this whole time, building. So we're at the point now where we just need to deliver, and we can't do everything at the same time because that wouldn't make sense. So it's just going to be spaced out once a month or every other month. If we do it every other month, we'll be releasing these products, by the end of next year. It's crazy. We've never been in this kind of position before, and I don't think there's anybody in DeFi that's in that kind of position where they have so much developed and ready to go.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I want to remain an objective interviewer over here, but it's hard not to get excited about this stuff. Every time you lay out the timeline, I start to get excited. And I'm obviously trying to ask these questions from an objective standpoint, but really I'm just super effing pumped about this. So let's talk about your team a little bit, because I think that's a big reason. I think that's like the biggest plus that's changed this year, and also kind of one of the biggest downsides. Yeah. So obviously, you've revamped the whole team during this pause, and I'm constantly telling people, hey, Drip with these new additions they put out there in these new utilities, Drip has increased its runway by years. So the only thing that I can think of in my head for this thing to go sideways is some weird exploit or some disgruntled dev or whatever. I'm hoping that you can talk a little bit about your team. I'd say leave marketing out. Let's just talk about like the devs and the PM. I know those guys are great. Do you feel like you now have it dialed in? And is this the team that can help build for the next year or two?
Yeah, well, disgruntled dev is never an issue. I mean, these are immutable contracts, locked to liquidity, decentralized liquidity pools. A dev can get as disgruntled as he wants. He'd just be screaming at his computer, basically. There's no
gotcha. So there's enough checks and balances that nobody could ever build put a little Easter egg inside the system that would eventually cause issues.
They're open source contracts. I mean, everybody has these contracts are not. I mean, there's a lot going on, but they're not that big. There's still Solidity contracts, and I mean, people would see them, right? The contracts have been audited multiple times by independent auditing firms, by open source auditing code, by in-house auditors, by people that are our competition. You think if some of our competition out there wouldn't call us out if we had something that was going on behind the scenes or whatever, or in our contract somehow? No, there's no angle there. So when it comes to the ownership and deploying and all of that, I'm the one that handles adding liquidity. I'm the one that handles locking the initial liquidity. I'm the one that handles the deploying of everything. Any contract that's developed, so for example, if BB develops a contract, we have an independent developer that didn't have anything to do with developing the contract, and they're the one that does the testing, and they're the one that does the in-house auditing. So there's no room for that at all. And then even if someone did, put something in there, they have no ability to call it. They have no ability to call private functions because they don't own deployer wallet. They don't own the owner wallet. So the only functions they can call are public functions that anybody can call. So it's just that's not a possibility. With the additions that I've added to the development team, it was really necessary at this point, this level of scaling that we've done, because it's been me. Well, the first, like Reap, B-Reap, these are things that I launched on my own. So I built the contracts, I built the websites, I started and managed the Telegram group, I managed the Twitter. It was just me. And then we started to onboard some community members who helped, and it was effectively just me until around B-Reap time, when I met up with BB, who is my partner, who's still my partner, and we launched B-Reap, and then we launched Drip, and it was a two-man team. So he was working at a centralized exchange before he hooked up with me, a very, very skilled programmer, but just worked by himself. He didn't have any kind of community. He'd never launched any projects or anything like that. So I brought him on, and he was doing a lot of the heavy coding, and I was doing a lot of the coming up with concepts and managing the community and handling all of their aspects of running a project. And that works up until you try to have multiple platforms going at once, multiple communities, 100,000+ users. There's only so much time that two people have, and he's working full-time in doing code. I'm working full-time in both development, doing what I can in code, plus managing everything. And we got to the point where I didn't have the time to reach out as far as scheduling marketing. I didn't have time to field questions from people that potentially wanted to do partnerships. And we had further things we wanted to build, which is just impossible because we had our hands full. So initially I brought on a guy that we got from Certic, right? He was a Certic quality control dev. We worked with him. He helped build Piggy Bank, and he helped build some of the early Animal Farm contracts. It got to a point where he wasn't delivering at the speed that we needed, and it wasn't a matter of any disgruntledness or anything like that. It was just a matter of not delivering at a rate that met our expectation. And while a couple months were going by when we were trying to make progress and things were going kind of slow, that's when I said, all right, well, we're going to continue on this path, but I'm going to use this time to the best of our ability. And that's when I hooked up with two other developers that are extremely well-known, skilled developers, and started working on Scratchy. That's when I partnered with a game dev who I've known since 2018 that build mobile games and some really, really, high-end games that do very well in and outside of DeFi. Started working on the Pigpen game, the hacker simulation game, which is something that I've been working on for 2 years, but we really put it into action to deliver it. I started working with my buddy who's a mathematician, a former math professor, with another developer to create the roulette game, the dogs roulette game. And I just took, I used every single day to continue to progress, even if we were waiting for one of the developers to deliver on some of the Animal Farm stuff. It got to the point where too long had passed. Some stuff that probably should have taken about a month was getting on like 2 months. And I decided that, yes, it's kind of a pain in the ass to drop this dev here, because now I need to bring on another dev to replace him, and that's going to take a few extra weeks to get them up to speed. But I can't just sit back and let 1 month turn into 2 months, turn into 3 months. So we decided to let one of the devs go. And since Scratchy was already built, I brought on the 2 Scratchy devs to replace him. And then since then, we've just been nailing it. We've been pumping out work like crazy. And everybody has... So I don't pay flat rates, and I don't pay up front. So that developer that we let go, he worked for like 2 months, and he didn't get paid. Because he understood that if you're coming on, you're getting paid to deliver.
Yeah, and an incentive-based structure.
Yeah, and they get paid a percentage of the dev fee, just like I get paid a percentage of the dev fee. So all of the developers have the same incentive that we have. We want it to be successful, and we want it to blow up and be as big and smooth as possible. So we're all on the same page. We all want it to do well. None of us get paid out in tokens, right? All of us get paid out in a share of what the platform earns. So we all want to see it do well. And, sometimes people just don't have the same work ethic, or they don't have the same drive. And that's fine, because he's a good guy and he does good work, but he just wasn't delivering at the pace that we needed. And I take, this serious. We have investors that are waiting. We have deadlines. It's relatively easy for me to let someone go, because the way I measure it is, this is one person, and we have an agreement with him, and I take that agreement serious. But on the other side, we have an agreement with 100, 150,000 people, and they always have to come first. So I'm willing to have that uncomfortable conversation and do what's right, and that's what we did. And because of that situation, we had an extra couple months delay with Animal Farm, but in that time we built like 6 other products with the other dev team. I never stopped working on other things.
I want to jump straight into that. I want to jump straight into that about the delays, because it seems like every 2 seconds something new was popping up. So when we originally had that issue with the piggy bank, right, because of the botter, that was the first pause. Pigs are about to go live again, everything was looking good, and then Pancake Swap switches to a new version of the syrup pools, everything gets delayed again. Now, in my eyes, you could have just fixed the issue with that contract probably in a few weeks, but instead it seemed like you went dark for a little bit, and then we didn't have much of a timeline. Then all of a sudden you started talking about a dogs game, and then there's a dogs roulette game, pigs game, new UIs, you're talking about landing pages. So all of a sudden, all this stuff started to come out of the woodworks. It all started happening. It coincided with this big market downturn, which obviously is not an ideal time to relaunch a platform. So here's the question. Were you watching the market and seeing it just continue to drop and thinking, why don't we just keep developing because we've got time? Like, why launch it right in the middle of this downturn? Why don't we just keep building out these protocols? And the market is likely to bottom in about a month, and Animal Farm launches in about a month. Is that a pure coincidence, or were you kind of timing this thing?
The market is never something that we could predict to that degree. So I'm developing as efficiently and as fast as we possibly can. And my timeline was based on how can we get everything done and deliver a product that we can ensure has no issues, And we had the initial delay with that developer. So the initial launch, right, with V2 was strictly to handle the migration of the dog and pig tokens. On the day that we were going to launch that, PancakeSwap decided to end emissions to their V1 syrup pools. And at that point, the rehypothecation that we do, the extra $30-40 million a year that we generate from that, we would no longer have access to. So at that point, we had to decide, whether we move forward or whether we make the changes to the contract to ensure that not only can we continue to make this collateral on the back end, but we have the ability to update it in the future if something like this comes up. Plus, we can do it in a decentralized way. So we started working on that, and we got a couple weeks into working on that, and that's when the developer that I put on it started having issues with delivery. So, like I said, it was probably about a month's worth of work, and now we're getting on, because it's not just a matter of developing it and launching it, right? Developing it and launching it could be done in maybe a week, but we have to develop it, we have to test it. It's not just a matter of writing the code and launching it. So about a month's worth of work turned into about 2 months worth of work. And while we were waiting for that to get done, I wasn't just going to waste time waiting for something, because everything else was built. So I started improving on everything else. So that's when I started working on the loyalty system. That's when I improved the liquidity helper mechanic, which takes the BUSD that is being sent to add liquidity from deposit fees and adds it to the liquidity pool of dogs. And we adjusted that. Previously, dogs from the tax would be sent there, and when there'd be a larger dollar value of dogs on the contract than BUSD, it would sell some of the dogs. And this would happen rather frequently in the V1 version. So we completely changed these contracts. So now dogs never get sent to it. It only gets sent BUSD, so it can only add buy pressure to the system. So, we made a lot of these changes in that period of time. And once we started working on making changes to the loyalty system, making changes to the liquidity helper system, I brought another 2 developers to replace them. It took time to get them onboarded. And then at that point, we were working on, 3 or 4 different things for Animal Farm to make it better. So
Yeah.
it was just a matter of trying to fit in as much as possible and not waste time. And in that couple months, when we were waiting for that to get delivered, we started working on all these other things.
Yeah, I think it worked out perfectly for us as investors. It's hard to time the market. You had a lot of issues that you needed to work through, but it seemed like every couple weeks you were coming out with something new you were working on. So I'm excited, whether it was intentional or not. Then the timing of the market and everything is we should bottom out. Animal Farm should launch and everything should start cranking. So super excited about it. I want to talk a little bit about your marketing team, if that's all right. Your marketing team came on. Everything's looking awesome. Everything, you're about to go to this full-scale marketing campaign. Will we get introduced to the marketing team at any point, or will they take over communications for you, where they get on and give like the report of what happened over the last couple weeks? What will we see from the marketing team in the future?
Well, no one's going to ever come on and replace me. Like, I feel I'm part of this community. I love being involved with people at Animal Farm and Drip. So that's never going to happen. They will likely help manage some of the social media outside of Twitter, because that's something that we need to do more of. And I only have so much of my own personal time to do it. So that's likely to happen. And whether they want to come on and speak publicly, that's up to them. there's a major role. There's multiple roles that they need to play behind the scenes to ensure that we're getting maximal exposure, and them being the mouthpiece of the project is not really one of those roles. If they want to step up and have some engagement with the community, I'm perfectly fine with that. But there's so much more for them to do behind the scenes when it comes to getting us on various platforms, ensuring that we're having a steady influx of influencers, analyzing our marketing budget and traffic going to our site, and being a intermediate between our team and the different firms that we're working with. There's so much for them to handle, and really their role is never supposed to be a mouthpiece for the project themselves. But we have so much going on behind the scenes, and really the point is that they're handling a lot of stuff behind the scenes, so I have more time to come on and actually do what I do and promote the site myself through direct marketing.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you're running this marketing, obviously if you're running marketing, you want people to be able to take those actual items. They're going to be able to go over and do a lot of that stuff, and then also pick up pigs because those are live, and then of course get into drip. What's the date that the actual dogs will go live? So if you're running marketing, when will those people be able to see a YouTube ad and then actually go buy dogs?
Dogs goes live on October 18th. So on the 15th of September, that's when people who are accredited dogs will actually be able to claim their dogs or their dog LPs, and those dogs will remain in their wallet or in the LP vesting contract up until the 18th. At the 18th, that's when the dog's token goes live. That's when they can start transacting them. That's when they can stake them and start earning yield on the LPs, start investing the LP tokens at a rate of 2% a day, start earning loyalty score. All of that goes live when the farm goes live on the 18th.
Perfect. Okay. Good to know. That'll be good to spread out there. Let's see. So I want to talk real quick. This should be an easy answer for you, but if you're unfamiliar with the term BHAG, it stands for Big Hairy Audacious Goal. And it sounds like the goal, and it's completely within reach, is for Animal Farm to set is going to be the number one DApp on the Binance Smart Chain. So my question is, what would have to happen in the order for us to be able to eclipse and dethrone PancakeSwap?
Yeah, so really, PancakeSwap, as far as a user base that are using their native assets, we've largely already done that, and we continue to outpace them. Now, to just get volume higher than them, and transaction volume and volume as far as capital, that takes servicing other products and servicing other platforms and other assets. And that's something that I'm going to be putting a lot more focus into in the future. So that's why Scratchy is a white label service that's specifically meant to service any platform in DeFi that wants to host the service. Of course, it's starting out on Drip and Animal Farm, but really from this point on, my focus will be developing products that support DeFi as a whole. And when you provide products that are extremely scalable in this way, that's when you start to have transaction volume that looks like PancakeSwap. Now, being a first mover on a chain as far as the DEX gives a massive advantage, and that's what PancakeSwap, that's what Uniswap have. In order to kick them out of that spot, from a DEX perspective, it takes adding significant utility and a much better user experience to their model. And there is some low-hanging fruit there. There's a big difference between the current DEX model and the current centralized model as far as exchanges go. And there's no reason basically all of that utility, that user experience that you get on a centralized exchange can't be brought over to decentralized exchanges. So there's a lot of room there for improvement. And through our referral structure and through the mechanics of Animal Farm and Drip, we already have a massive advantage as far as onboarding. This is why, even though we're basically just independent projects that are only supporting our independent platforms, we are outpacing all of these other platforms. So I think if you can combine the two with a better user experience from a exchange perspective, with the referral structures and the whole ecosystem of Drip and Animal Farm, I mean, I have no doubt that we could pass them. It's a matter of not trying to do everything all at once. You want to pick a few goals that you do very well, get to the point where those tasks are basically running like clockwork, and then moving on to the next one. And we have, like I said, the next 8 to 12 months really mapped out as far as what we can deliver and continuing to deliver. But past then, I have some really big ideas that will add a ton of value to Drip and a ton of value to Animal Farm, but will not be limited to Drip or Animal Farm. And I believe these will be what takes us to being the number one ecosystem, let's call it, in DeFi. Because I don't, one individual platform may do it. It may be the one to hit the top. But I don't look at any one of our platforms as an individual platform. I look at it as a whole ecosystem, and I really want to have the most powerful ecosystem in the space. Whether, I would be happy having, the number 2, 3, 4, and 5 platforms in DeFi, and maybe there's one above us, but between having 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're doing combined 10x what number 1 is doing. That's where I see us going. But there's absolutely a clear angle on us, overtaking PancakeSwap. I think it's a matter of time. Drip alone could do it just by it staying on its current course. It could do it, but there's a lot of value we can add to the table to make that happen a lot sooner, I think.
Yeah, I feel like just honestly, you've got kind of the trifecta here with the launch of Scratchy. I think when that comes out, you're going to get a whole different user base than you would with like a daily ROI platform or the farm. So I think you've got an angle there that no one else obviously is pursuing. No one's even touching what you've done in the Scratchy model. And then Animal Farm, of course, and then Drip. So with those three being the pillars, I could definitely see us being, in those top 3 to 4 spots and overcoming it. That'd be a pretty amazing feat. How long do you think that would take? Do you think it's something we could do by mid next year?
What specifically?
Just showing up as maybe the number one or in the top, having all 3 platforms in the top few on Binance Smart Chain.
I think by the end of next year we could easily have 1, 2, and 3. I really do, because Scratchy, I believe it's going to be the biggest thing we've done. I truly believe that because of its scalability. Then Drip is already on course. So Drip, I think, by itself right now, within a couple of years, could easily pass PancakeSwap just based on its current mechanics if we did nothing to it, if we didn't touch it. But of course, we are continuing to add value. And then lending and insurance is what I'm going to be putting my full focus on tackling next year. And that will be models that are designed to service all of the major platforms in DeFi. So I actually said I was in a developer group recently, and I basically told them by the end of next year we're going to have the number 1, 2, and 3 DeFi platforms on Binance Smart Chain. I just called it. I really believe that's going to happen.
I think if we continue on this path and there's no major issues or setbacks, it's definitely achievable, which would be just major for the ecosystem and everyone in it. I think it's tough for people to get in right now because DeFi is a new space, so there's this big learning curve. But if you can jump through those hurdles, and you're making them a lot easier by having an onboarding process and some education and landers and all that stuff, you're making that smoother. But if you're in now or you get in the near future, the upside is just way leans in the favor in the risk reward model. I think anybody who's in now, overall the risk, especially in DeFi and drip, drip is relatively low considering the rest of DeFi, very low. And then for the money that you can make in the long term, I think it's just incredible. So I know the whole team's excited about it. I've been watching the chat blow up, and I think we're all pretty stoked about it.
Yeah, man. It's, a lot of these things are projects that I've wanted to develop for years now. And sometimes, no matter how good of a developer you are, you could develop the most groundbreaking tech, but if you're not known, if you don't have that community and you don't have that backing, people just won't use it. I know a developer that developed an insurance model for DeFi platforms, and he's a very good dev, but if you have an insurance model for DeFi platforms and no one knows who you are, no one's going to use it. And there's no reason for the DeFi platforms to adopt you. They don't know who you are. It's just and this is the kind of guy who's a very good coder, very good developer, but wouldn't even bother reaching out to these platforms. He just developed it, put it on chain, and just hoped people use it. And the space doesn't really work like that, especially if it's something that is heavy utility based, but doesn't have some of the incentive structures to give people a direct, obvious short-term profit. So some of these things I've wanted to build, I just didn't feel like I was in a place to be able to put them on the market and have them get the use that they deserve and the attention that it takes to get them off the ground. And, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do Drip. I felt like Drip would be a massive onboarding vehicle that would allow us to build a very large community very fast, and then I could use that as a platform to deliver on some of these products that I've wanted to build for years. Having a decentralized insurance model for decentralized platforms that help secure a percentage of the TVL on the farm and a percentage of people's principal on these farms in case of any kind of major exploit or anything like that is needed. These are the kinds of foundations and the kind of utilities that we need to be building to bring serious capital into the space and really have the kind of attention put on us that some of these traditional finance markets have. So this is what my focus will be. I think DeFi in general will look completely different in the next 4 to 5 years. And I think we're in the perfect place right now to build those foundations to be the major players in the next 5 years. And, this is what the next couple of years for us is going to be all about. Taking what we've had, what we've built, and continue to add on it in ways that service us, but service DeFi as a whole. And, bringing true utility is, I would say, half of it. So you bring something that has true utility, and the other half is actually getting people to use it. But we have that community, we have the marketing team now, and we have the ability to build these things. So I don't know too many other development teams that are building the kind of stuff that we're building and are prepared as we are prepared. So, DeFi is going to be huge, and we're in a better place than anybody else to really be front runners in a lot of these things.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And something you just said was pretty interesting to me, because when I was thinking of insurance, when you started talking about insurance, I was thinking kind of per wallet, and then I was thinking it would be, how would it be to leak your seed phrase, quote unquote, and then try to claim insurance fraud. But you're saying that in some cases you're actually talking about insuring the platform, setting it up to where there's like a protocol insurance.
FDIC, like basically the DeFi equivalent of FDIC. basically.
That's major.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you may have said that before, but I haven't heard it. So I think that's major alpha. That would change the way DeFi works in general. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're doing, I feel like, is already changing the landscape of DeFi. But between that insurance and lending, that completely changes the entire landscape of what DeFi is now and how it's going to be looked at by outsiders.
I wouldn't build something if I didn't think it was a major step in the right direction. I think everything we built has been, and we're in a position where the things we can do next are exponentially larger than anything we've done in the past. It's the first few years as a founder and as a developer, team building is really big. And it takes a couple of years to really get that solid team and really to get flowing and working to kind of your full potential. And I think we're just getting there. Like we've spent, I've worked with a bunch of developers. I've worked with a bunch of dev teams as an advisor. I've raised capital for a bunch of dev teams. But when I started working on my own, I'm not into bureaucracy. I don't like large teams and a lot of people, working just to have bureaucracy, just to have a bunch of people working. I don't feel like a job is done once it's off your desk if it's just going to someone else's desk. The job is done when it's done. So I've never been one to add someone to my team just to have someone, do a task that I could do. It's been a slow burn, but now we have something like 6 or 7 full-time team members that all have their own role. They all have independent roles that couldn't be done by anybody else, and we have all the bases covered, finally, and we're ready to deliver on it. And I would say the past 6 months really put the pressure on us to kind of fine tune the edges and shake off some of the people that couldn't deliver, have the people that could deliver that we brought on for scratching, for example, and give them a bigger role. And we're in a great place right now.
Yeah, and it seems like on the path, you gave a lot of people opportunities, to shake out some weak hands, but to educate themselves on the new platform. I mean, the information's rolling out weekly where we learn a little bit more, and then, like you said, this whole like couple week marketing deal is us getting everybody that's already in the ecosystem onboarded and familiar with the process. That way, when you flip on the marketing and all the outsiders are coming in, that we're already full steam ahead, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And we're going to focus on community-based marketing stuff, Reddit threads, and even maybe go old school with some 4chan, and we're going to go heavy like we were when we launched Reap, right? So people that have been around with Reap, they know we did all kinds of crazy stuff. We were doing raids on other people's Telegram groups. We were, pissing all kinds of people off. I was getting my accounts banned for spam and all kinds of stuff. We were going heavy, and we're going to do that. That's what, I want to get everybody on board with our community. So we're acting as one, and we're really just, because when you consider how many people we have on here, we probably have one person from every single major crypto Telegram group on all of Telegram. So this is why I wanted to speak directly to the community in the first couple weeks. So everybody is ready to go and has the information that they need to share, so we can make this push that, that we deserve and that everybody deserves here. Because people put the time in here, people, if you're here, then you put in the work, I think, at this point, because it's been basically all community based and really speaking directly to DeFi people. So if you're here now, you've put in the work, and we need to really now speak to the people who aren't doing the work and hold their hand.
Yeah, I'd agree completely. And the onboarding process is going to do a lot of that, and then all of us YouTubers out here are going to do that as well. Obviously, once the new landing pages actually get dropped and we can get eyes on them, and once the new UI is up, we get to make the videos that coach people through it and understand it, and of course, hopefully that'll spread. Your marketing will send people in our direction, if you will, and then hopefully vice versa as well.
Yeah, so we will likely get everything up by next Monday, and then that's the plan. And then we'll have almost a full week with the new UI up, the new landing page up, before the DOS crediting and before we have our first day kicks off of real outside marketing. And as soon as we get that the UI up and the landing page up, even if it's before the 15th, we're going to just get going immediately with some of the out-facing social media and some of the out-facing marketing.
That's good. That's all I had in the flow, but I want to give you an opportunity. If there's anything that I didn't bring up that you want to hit, we can hit it now. And I've also got just a handful of questions from the community. So whichever way you want to take it, my man.
Yeah, well, I would say we should probably get to the community questions, because I've been up since like 4 a.m, and I've been working crazy hard all day. I had like an hour and a half to do this. We're going on 2 hours, so I really, hit me with the questions.
Sounds good. That's totally fair. And we need you to get some good rest, because you got a lot of hard work to do over there. But I'd say here's one that always gets brought up that I'm just curious if you can touch on real quick, is what does the fertilizer bonus mean in the drip garden? That little section of 3 categories, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the way that the drip garden works is there are 2 internal assets on the contract. One of them is plants and one of them is seeds. The plants have a constant price, which means that the price of them is always the same amount of seeds. So it always costs the same amount of seeds to buy plants. And every time a plant is bought, that plant is created. So when you have a system where the plants that are generated are going to people who are buying in and compounding, that ensures that the rate for new users and the rate for people that are compounding is constantly getting better. So the percentage of plants that you get per seed, or I should say the amount of seeds that you get per LP token, is the price of them is constantly getting better. So you're constantly getting a better rate if you're buying in. And since you're constantly getting a better rate for seeds, and then the plant price in seeds is a constant, then every day the amount of bang for your buck, or the amount of assets that you get for your capital, is increasing. And that's why we call it the fertilizer bonus, but essentially it ensures that there's a level playing field and there's no runaway price of seeds or plants where, due to the exponential compounding or people constantly buying in, the price gets to a point where it's no longer feasible for a new user to put in capital and to get a solid position in the contract. So we call it a fertilizer bonus. Really, it's just a constant supply and an ever increasing, or it's a constant price for plants and an ever increasing seed supply, which ensures that those who are compounding and those who are buying in are always getting a fair rate relative to people that are always in there. And when you have inflation in a system, But this inflation is getting paid out to new buyers and compounders. It's a value transfer from people who are not compounding and are not putting new capital in the system and are just withdrawing to people who are compounding and are putting new capital in the system. So it's just a clever and easier way for people to understand the supply versus price mechanism in the system.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. Everyone's been asking me that, and I have not been able to come up with an answer. So that was pretty clear. Thank you. It definitely just lays out the metrics. Another question that came up is, I know that we are interested in doing a fiat onboarding and then potentially the fiat offboarding as well. I know we had some applications in for the first, first companies we were maybe going to take a look at. Do we have a word back on those applications, and what's the timeline that you want to have on an onboarding process?
I actually have a meeting tomorrow about that, and the couple things that I said I was working on, right, and that people have been asking about is our high risk rating and fiat onboarding. And I said I've been working on it, and today we knocked one of them out of the park, right? We got our high risk rating removed from DAP radar. We're making progress on these things. It just takes time, but we're constantly having meetings. We're constantly making progress on it. The last kind of block that we had was KYCing. I never KYC for anything, but technically I don't have to be the one that KYCs. We can have someone that steps on as an advisor or some sort of team role be the one that KYCs, and we needed to set someone up to be able to do that. We have set someone up to be able to do that. Tomorrow I have a meeting to speak about how we're going to move forward on that, and it's going to get done for sure because we have a way to do it whether they accept our application or not. So whether they directly accept our application or we buy out some other token that already has a fiat on-ramp and do it that way. And I work with a platform or a company called Acquirify that is essentially a marketplace that allows you to buy out other platforms and other companies, and we definitely have some options to be able to do that. Directly buy out full projects that have fiat on-ramp, utilize their token as a type of intermediate, and integrate it that way. So I would rather do it in a way where we're directly getting it specifically for our token, and that's what we're working on. And I have a meeting tomorrow, which should almost cement us being able to do that. It really, we'll see how the meeting goes, but regardless, it's going to get done. It's just, things take time, and we're getting them done. People can see that we are meeting our goals.
For sure. Piece by piece, you're knocking stuff out. That DAP radar thing was huge. That's an incredible concept. I had no idea that you could put yourself in a position where you could buy another token out that already had the fiat on-ramp functionality and then just use it as an intermediary. I mean, you put yourself in a position where you can't fail.
Yeah, so, no one else is doing it. This is something that I just thought we could do that. We can do that. But there's other projects. There were so many pump and dumps last year. There were projects that pumped, that got massive. They were the hot project for a month or whatever, got fiat on-ramp because whatever, they had a good marketing team, they were connected some way, and they got a fiat on-ramp. And then there was a pump and dump, so they died, and now they got $10 worth of liquidity in their liquidity pool, and but they still have this fiat on-ramp, and it would take nothing to just buy them out. Most likely it would just take buying up the supply of their token and buying basically the right to use their platforms from the development team, which we absolutely have the ability to do.
Yeah, and I can't imagine if it's almost a failed platform or a failed token that would be incredibly expensive. So it would probably be a pretty nice shortcut if and when you had to actually do that if we couldn't get it ourselves.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. There really are. I've been checking that out recently because I'm just making sure we have all our options covered.
That's pretty amazing, my friend. Well, I know you got to go, so let's just do one more question and then we'll let you go. this one is coming from 1,000 people too, and I know you've got like a specific strategy where you've said a couple times, this is what I would do with dogs. You know, I would take it in the single asset and put it in the staking pool. If you had a little bit of capital right now, you're an outside investor, you're seeing Animal Farm for the first time, you understand how it works. What are your main plays in the Animal Farm?
Yeah. So if I was someone that is going to get credited dogs, right? You have two options. You could get credited dogs or dog LPs if you had LPs. If you had single asset dogs, you could get credited dogs. If you had dogs LPs, you could get credited in your dog LPs, or you could decide to get the same dollar value that your LPs are worth in single asset dogs. The reason why you would want to get single asset dogs is because when we go live, the dog token is going to have a 90% variable tax. That means that everybody that gets the dog tokens, whether they buy it off the market, they farm it, or they get credited with it, if they go to transact or swap or sell those dogs in a non-whitelisted contract, and the only whitelisted contracts are, you know, add liquidity, stake in the farm, stake in the dog pound, use the dog roulette game. So basically, if you're sending it to anywhere except for our native products, you're going to incur a 90% tax. And this is essentially just a vesting. So we're going live with a vesting model. Anybody who does swap the dogs will incur this tax. That tax will be swapped for both BNB and BUSD. 2/3 of it will get swapped to BNB and paid out to the dog pound. 1/3 will get swapped to BUSD and paid out to the pig pen. The vast majority, essentially nobody, will be swapping their dogs when it goes live. You would have to be grossly misinformed to think that would be a good idea.
Taxes completely negate the purpose to sell.
Yeah, and it's the same as, for example, a drip, right? You buy drip and you stake drip. There's that vesting period where you're making 1% ROI a day. It takes 100 days to reach that period where you can essentially your dividends has matched your principal. It's very similar, but instead of having it a vested model where it's a payout, it's a tax reduction to the point where now those tokens become available for you to transact with a low tax, down to 6%. Now, since there's going to be these people being credited dogs, farming dogs, and the listing pump, I don't see the dog token dropping below the price that we go live at. With all of the people that will be buying from all of our marketing, and all of the people that understand that the price is, I mean, the chance of it going down for listing price are negligible because it just doesn't make any sense. There's going to be a ton of buyers coming in and effectively no sellers. So this dog token is likely going to pump harder than anything we've ever seen pump in DeFi. And if you're getting credited dogs, you have an option. Do you get credited single asset dogs where you're fully exposed to this appreciation, or you go with LPs and half of your value is in BNB or BUSD, and as people buy dogs and as the price goes up, those dogs in the liquidity pool that you have, if you're holding LP tokens, are reducing, and you're getting more BNB or more BUSD. So you're losing your exposure to the dog token as the price is appreciating. So the question, undoubtedly, is to take the single asset dogs. Now, if you take the single asset dogs, the LPs that you could have claimed just get locked in the liquidity pool. So that becomes a deeper locked liquidity pool in dog token, which further supports the price of dogs. And now you could have a few choices of what you do with it. You either take the dogs, you add liquidity to them, new liquidity, and now put them in the V2 pools to earn pigs, or you put them in the pig pen, you put them in the dog pound, where you could either put them in the non-compounding dog pound to earn BNB, Or you put them in the auto compounding dog pound, and you're still earning the same amount of B&B, but your tax is reducing 25% faster, plus the B&B that you're earning, half of it gets used to buy dogs, pairs it for you, and stakes it in the Master Chef contract for you. And it's hyper compounding it for you. Effectively, about every 5 minutes, it's taking the B&B that you earned and compounding into the Master Chef. So it's allowing you to earn this exponential compound growth in your share ownership of the platform as you're earning B&B and as your tax is reducing 25%. So clearly, in my opinion, the auto compounding pool is the way to go, but I would also want to have some exposure to the farm, because all of the deposit fees that are coming in, all of the taxes, all of that collateral hypothecation, which is massive, that's going to be paying out a ton of BUSD to the pig pen. So you also want to be accumulating your share of the pig pen. So at launch, I would be buying dogs, I would be buying pigs, I would be putting a share of my dogs in the auto compounding pool. I'd be pairing a share of it to put into the dogs B&B or dogs BUSD pool, and I'd be staking my pigs in the pig pen. And that would be my play. That's the way to take optimal advantage of Animal Farm. Now, if you want to go with a slightly high risk, higher return for your pigs, you could decide to add liquidity to them and get it to the piggy bank and lock them for a period of time. That's also a good play for pigs. And if you have some stable coins, if you have some LP tokens laying around, you got some Chainlink, any of these various non-native assets, you might as well put them in the farm or in the pools to start earning high yield on them. It's fully trustless, it's fully decentralized. You're not handing over ownership or custodianship of those tokens to a third party or to a centralized organization. You still have custodianship of those tokens. Put them in there, earn yield. Not only are you earning yield in both the dog token and B&B, if you're utilizing those dog tokens, you're also accumulating a share ownership of the platform. You're earning a BUSD dividend. And on top of all that, you're making all of the benefit that you would make in PancakeSwap. Now, of course, kind of the twist, which is how the incentive structure lines up perfectly, is the extra capital that's being earned on the back end in PancakeSwap is paid out into the pig pen. It's paid out into the owners. So you're getting all of the benefit of Animal Farm and that innovation. And then if you utilize that to accumulate your share ownership, you're also getting all of the benefit as if you were in PancakeSwap. And the reality is that there's going to be some decent percentage of people that are not taking advantage of that are not accumulating ownership. So not only are you earning the benefit that you make from PancakeSwap, you're earning a share of everybody else who's having their collateral staked on the back end of PancakeSwap that isn't using it to grow their ownership of the platform. So if all of the collateral on the platform, say $1 billion is in PancakeSwap, earning 30 to 40% APY, but then only 50% of those people are actually utilizing the tokens that they're generating to farm pigs and accumulate their share ownership, then you're earning the BUSD rewards from the pancake staking that the whole other half of all the farmers would be earning. So, it's just, the potential there is massive. It's unlike anything you can get on any platform. And all of the incentive structures are designed to make it easy for you to do the right thing. To not take the short-term pump and dump type of play, which ends up wrecking almost everybody. You know, when a pump and dump happens, the only people that benefit from that are insiders. That's it. We've developed a system to be anti-pump and dump. And the people who benefit instead are the users who are doing the right thing, or who are doing positive actions that really uplift everybody and allow you to earn in the way that, you know, the wealthy do, by accumulating your share of assets and leveraging them through low risk vehicles, through yield aggregation and lending, to earn a dividend. And this dividend that you're earning is coming in the form of BUSD and BNB. So the super wealthy, they own equities, they own real estate. They leverage their equity in this real estate and then generate yield from that through lending, through other models. And what they get paid in through this lending is USD. And they live off the USD. They're not selling their assets. They're not selling their equities. They're not selling their real estate. This is the first model that allows you to do that. It's a decentralized model that allows you to earn in this way, where you're accumulating your share ownership and you're accumulating your assets, and you're earning in a secondary asset that is not your underlying assets that you're leveraging. So you never have to sell these underlying collateral assets, and you can just live off the dividends. And as you continue to accumulate your share and increase your dividend cash flow. So, you know, it's the roadmap for someone like me is clear as day. I think it's going to become more and more apparent as we continue with our education. Then we just started this. So, like, we just started really hitting the community marketing. We've only done like 3 interviews. I have interviews set up every other day up until the 15th. And then on the 15th, that's where we really go hard. So we're just getting started. I was up, I woke up at something like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. I've been working all day. And then I came on. I haven't eaten anything. So I was a bit tired today. But of course, we set the meeting. So you're like, I'm here for it. And it was a great interview. So I'm glad we got to do this, but we got a lot more to come, and we'll have a follow-up. Let's get in maybe, I don't know, a couple days before the crediting, or a couple days after the crediting, or definitely before it goes live, and we'll have a follow-up on this. Definitely when the UI is up, then we'll have that. We'll have a follow-up.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no worries, man. I think you laid it out very well, because I think people think Animal Farm is complex. So if you feel like it's complex, go back to the basics. Do 2 things: auto compounding dogs, put it in the pig pen, put pigs in the pig pen. That way you can earn that BUSD, and you could literally pretty much set it and forget it doing it that way. So I would tell people, it's not, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Treat it like a rental property. Buy the asset, collect the rent, never sell the underlying asset.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you have some additional non-native assets, use that to generate yield as well. I mean, it's easy. There's a lot of moving parts, but how to take advantage of it and how the average user could take advantage of it, like optimally, you know, there's not too much you have to do. It's we made it simple to do the right thing. It's just, you know, once the UI is up and people can see how to use it, it's going to become a lot more clear to people.
Yeah, I think we're all incredibly excited. I know you're going to roll some stuff out here soon, so we'll look for that. I know you got to get some rest and some food, so we'll let you go. But I do want to let you know I truly appreciate you coming on the channel. I think the community appreciates it, and I feel like you dropped a lot of, you know, new things in here to get people excited about the launch. I mean, 9 more days, and this thing's going to go haywire. So.
Yeah, man. Well, 9 more days, and we got the dogs crediting, and that's when. That's where the outside marketing really starts. So October 18th is the launch, and we are there. Like, we have all of the contracts are developed. We're continuing to test them and audit them, but everything is working amazingly. In 2 days, we're having a pseudo launch. We're having a dry run of the full launch. On I believe the 22nd, we're having another third-party audit done. I believe we're going to have Hackett do an additional audit on the 22nd of this month. So that will be before it goes live. So that's another audit. We're going to have 3 audits before it goes live. 3 third-party, major auditing firms, and then our own open source audit, and then all of the internal audits we've done. This we're really doing this right.
Well, I'm excited, man. And, people often say you're the GOAT in the space. And I think if they listen to this AMA, it's pretty easy to see why. And I'm really excited to see what happens to the ecosystem over the next 6 months. I think you're going to train a lot of people to think like the wealthy, and you're also going to help a lot of people get wealthy. And that's the name of the game. So we all appreciate you, speaking on behalf of the community, we all appreciate you a lot.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Let's keep in touch. We'll hook back up in a few weeks.
Sounds good, my friend. Take care.